right, so Raging Randy here with Marcus Rezak. Marcus, say hi to all the good people out there.
Hello, everybody. How are you? And hope everyone is having a great afternoon or evening or whatever time you're listening to this.
All right, well, thanks so much for being with me here. I, for one, am a fan of the new album, so I'm happy to get your thoughts here and get a little deeper with you.
Thank you.
So why don't we start off, I know a little bit about you, but I think a lot of my listeners might want a little bit more background. So let's start off, let's go way back. And how old were you when you first started playing guitar?
When I first started playing guitar, I was 10 years old. It was
Wow.
the first time I actually had a guitar in my hands, per se. I did have exposure to the guitar when I was very young, but I did not actually start playing until about 10 years old. Yeah, that was about the time.
Okay. And what drew you and continues to draw you to the guitar specifically?
The first time I got my hands on the guitar was from a friend who's become a lifelong friend, and I broke every last string on that guitar. It turned out to be that I realized that it was such a huge way of expressing myself that I wasn't used to being able to do with just words or any other way. It was kind of an escape for me of certain emotions growing up and ways of channeling energy and things like that. But now it's really just a tool to express the feelings, and I just love how it feels to play the guitar and just make those big noises and just do things that it's like a magical sword or something like that to me. It's like a unique tool that you can express yourself and have fun and communicate with other people on a level that you can't do it in any other way. The universal form of communication is music, and my guitar is that device that helps me do that primarily. So That's really kind of how I feel about it.
Certainly. Do you remember what kind of guitar it was?
Oof. It was I believe it was a Gibson Nighthawk.
Wow.
That's what it was at the time.
That's awesome.
My first guitar was definitely a Stratocaster kind of like knockoff guitar, and eventually I started earning my wings more and more, and I got my hands on friends' guitars, and then I eventually worked my way up to a lovely PRS Hollow Body 2, which became my main guitar for a long time, pretty much until about 7 years ago.
Okay. Do you play any other instruments?
Well, I do have to say that now my main guitars are Lippy USA guitars, and unfortunately Mike Lippy, the builder of those guitars, just passed away, and I'm really attached to his guitars now, and will keep playing them for a long time, and love playing those guitars at all my shows and stuff, now. But I just had to mention Mike Lippy there, and let people know that his guitars kick ass, and you should check them out if you haven't heard of them yet.
Do you play any other instruments outside of guitar?
Oh yeah, I played bass pretty darn well. I produce by making drum beats, and I can be behind a drum set and hold my own pretty well. Percussion, piano was the first instrument that I actually started playing. My great grandmother was a classical pianist, really, really good. She was a teacher and a performer, and she taught me piano when I was like 3 years old.
Wow.
So I remember actually sitting with her at the piano at that time. So piano is definitely something under my fingers. And when I went to Berklee College of Music, and we had some requirements there, we just had to learn other instruments. So I took some hardcore piano classes there, and actually got my dexterity and recollection of all the scales and patterns and chords and things doing that. But yeah, I like to dabble in those main instruments that are commonly seen on stage, and just other weird instruments, tablas. I really like tablas and other like West African Udu drums. Super cool. There's different stuff like that.
Okay. So I also hear that you're a teacher as well.
Yes, that is correct. Yep. I have a master's degree in jazz composition, and I've always loved teaching. And I'm basically doing a lot of online lessons and getting people going through Skype and FaceTime and things like that related to music theory and guitar and even bass and other instruments, on different levels. But even as far as band coaching and different types of therapy, even for musicians or non-musicians. So anybody who's interested in that could easily contact me through my website and find out a lot more.
All right, well, great. Thanks. That gives us a little insight into your musical background. So why don't we move on to the record now? So Gateway to the Galaxy, which was released in November of last year, 2018. What made you decide that now was the time to release this album? I know that you've done a lot of session work and a lot of live work over the years, and you've been in other bands where you've created original music. What was it, that told you it's time to release this solo album?
I started the record in January of last year, of 2018. And in December of 2017, I was kind of doing a ton of cover gigs. I was doing, which I don't regret doing or have anything negative to say, really, except that I was just doing a lot of cover gigs. And it was great stuff. I had a group that was doing all Frank Zappa music. And I happened to be lucky to be doing that with members of Frank Zappa's band. Arthur Barrow, primarily on bass, my good friend and someone that I look up to as a mentor musically. We started working together and working up. He started teaching me basically all the Zappa stuff firsthand from when he was in the band, And Chad Wackerman on drums for a handful of our shows, and Robert Martin also. And the group is called Frank and Zap's Monster. And, I was doing that a lot, and also had a Grateful Dead tribute band that still plays called Shred is Dead. And, it's basically like a high-octane progressive take on the Grateful Dead with a little twist of, my own style of improv, I would say. And, a lot of shows with that, and that's cool, too. And I was doing a lot of Jimi Hendrix shows as well, and things like that. And, before that, I had made albums with bands, that were great. Digital Tape Machine had 2 albums. One that was most well known called Be Here Now, and it really is a great piece of work. And I enjoyed making it with everyone in the band at the time. But it was more of a group effort and different choices made based on different people's opinions. Before that, I was in another group called The Hue, which was an instrumental progressive rock quartet out of Chicago. And we did 2 records at Rax Tracks recording studio. The album most people would know of is called Beyond Words. So, there's that as well. And that was also kind of a very collaborative effort. So I just felt like it was time that I produced and composed an album of my own music, the way I want to do it, and what I think, best expresses myself and what naturally I would want to play. So given all of that, I decided to make my own record and, let people hear what's going on in my head, my heart. And, it just kind of organically was created in the studio. I didn't really want to plan it before I went in there because there's just been so much material built up in my head and soul that I haven't done anything with, just due to other things going on, other projects, other session work, other musical things that I was doing. So I went into the studio and just went ahead and decided to make this record, and that's what happened, basically.
Okay, awesome. In the press release that was sent out with the record, you're quoted as saying the entire album is an expression of my current feelings about life and all points that have led up until now. Can you elaborate on that a little
Mhm.
bit for our listeners and give us a little bit more insight into that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's been a lot of experiences that have happened through my music career, being on the road and working with a lot of different people, and the struggle of it all, I guess, coming up and earning your stripes and gaining respect from people that you look up to, and goals that you want to meet for yourself as a young person. Those are all things that kind of lead up to something big, I feel like. And I was kind of very reflective at the time of where I am as a musician, and why I'm here as a musician, what I'm doing in life, and what's the whole point, and why am I born even? You know what I mean? Like, what is the reason for me existing? And it just kind of, like, all points keep leading to making music and being on stage and working with other people, and creating something for listeners and music lovers and just society to enjoy, and hopefully appreciate, and musicians to listen to and be inspired. And being a musician school kind of guy for college, that period of time, like, you want to earn respect from other musicians. That's important to you. I'm not here making a pop record right now for myself. I'm making a record for people to enjoy and respect what's happening, hopefully, that they're hearing. And I have a high integrity for myself as a musician, and want to uphold that and keep growing. I'm never going to stop learning or improving as a musician, I hope. So all of those things just kind of lead up to a big body of work and a big composition for me internally. And the only way that I could do that and let it out is by making this record, I feel like. And that's kind of the culmination of what that all has been, is a lot of just time and energy and focus and love for what I do and the people who support it, and enjoying music itself, and playing the guitar. And that's what I do. And the best way to put that all into one thing is by making an album, and then taking that and going out and performing it and giving it to people out to hear, and that's giving it to the world, basically. And leaving some sort of a legacy behind for yourself as well, and that's important to me to do. And I just want to, be able to look back on things that I've done as well and feel good about it. So it's kind of like all those things.
Okay, wonderful. And so there's a mixture of instrumental tunes and tunes with lyrics. I don't necessarily need to go line by line, but if you had like a general message that you want to get across to your listeners through these lyrics, what do you hope it'll say to them?
Well, overall, I have to say that it's a mixture of kind of believing in yourself and in your purpose, and having inner strength to persevere through anything that comes your way. Life isn't easy always, and it's important that everyone kind of perseveres and moves forward, and has that inner strength. And also to remember how small we are in the grand scheme of the world and the universe, to be absolute about things, I would say. We are small. We are just here, and we have to make an impact while we're here, and just do good for society and the world and ourselves and our families and things like that. So I think that those are the kind of the main messages, and also to appreciate what we have and what we're doing, and just nature and life itself. I think those are the real takeaways from the lyrics, I would say.
Okay, wonderful. And I think that sort of leads into my next question a little, or and half answers it. But there's a lot of different genres represented in this album, and I know that you're not one to kind of limit yourself by genre. But one thing that I noticed that's a real recurring theme as far as the music goes is this sort of theme of like space and sort of this ethereal sort of atmosphere. And that, I guess that you sort of answered that that's kind of where that theme stems from, is that sort of feeling of where we are in the universe. Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. To be honest with you, there was an experience that helped me name the album, which is obviously a big reflector on the overall message. I went to Mount Wilson Observatory, which is in outside of Los Angeles. I went up there with Arthur Barrow about 6 months before making the album. So we went up to Mount Wilson Observatory and looked through the 100-inch telescope, which is where Edwin Hubble discovered the Milky Way. And other scientists as well have been up there, like Einstein. And that's actually where we stayed, was in the same cabin that Einstein had stayed in at one time, which was really cool in itself. But we were looking through the telescope and looking at planets all night and stars. I saw Saturn. I saw the double moon pattern. I saw Jupiter. All kinds of cool stuff. And there's a good group of us there as well. Besides the four of us, there's Robbie Krieger was there and a bunch of other friends of Arthur's. And we had guitars and instruments in there, just kind of hanging out and all taking turns, like looking through the telescope at stars and planets all night. And that experience kind of really impacted me, I would say, because I've never done that before and never got to see what's really out there with astronomers who are explaining all of this stuff, or our friends who come to our shows and do all these things. So, just that whole experience left a lasting impact on me, and just made me think about things in a bigger way.
Yeah.
And combined with the musical aspect of it all, it's kind of an inspiring point of how the album was named,
Wow.
So, yeah, especially with the way Arthur and I have developed a relationship musically together, and he brought me up there for that experience and everything. And he's also on the record, by the way, so it's kind of a whole thing.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Thanks for indulging us. I appreciate that.
Sure. Sure.
So a couple more things about the album. What were the biggest challenges you faced when either writing or recording, or any piece of the album that was particularly challenging?
Well, let's see. I guess the easy parts were doing the guitar solos, because that's the fun stuff. I always save that for last, in the recording sessions. Get the hard stuff done first, kind of get the harmony done and get the melodies done and things like that. But I think that the most interesting and challenging thing for me was writing the vocal melodies to the songs that have vocals on them on the album, and writing lyrics as well, because it's sort of a newer territory for me to be using my voice as an instrument. So, and of course I did do a lot of ear training and things like that, where we would have to sing melodies on the page and be able to repeat and recite certain things if you heard them at Berkeley. But for me to do it in a kind of completely organic way was really exciting, and also somewhat challenging at times, because the voice is something that you really have to strengthen and kind of train yourself with. So I took a lot of time with that. That was something that I focused on a lot and put energy into in a different way than with the guitars or the other instruments.
Right. Great.
So
And
yeah,
what was
yeah.
the most rewarding part? I guess. Let's say besides the guitar solos, we know those are your favorite because that's what you do. Other than that, what was the most rewarding part of the process?
Well, I gotta say that once we received Bill Evans' saxophone tracks, it was like just an overwhelmingly joyous feeling. And it brought tears to all of our eyes once we popped it in there, because stuff he plays is incredible and just so beautiful, and it added a lot, I think, to the overall sound of the record. So yeah, once Bill sent the tracks in, it was just like glorious sounds, and he, that was really the exciting moment. And also with mixing the album, just that whole process was so fun, being able to put it all together and flesh out everything and add, just certain panning techniques and different effects, and, really have fun with all the material that was recorded, all the structural things,
Yeah, certainly.
those were the big highlights, I would say.
I should say so. I would if Bill Evans sent me a track to go onto my album, I'd probably have the same reaction. So
Yeah, he's on 3 of the tracks actually.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, he's all over it. He did some really cool stuff, and we threw some effects on some of his solos and stuff, and it's really unique sounding actually.
hmm
So beyond just the mechanical uniqueness of his playing, it sonically and texturally from effects enhanced too.
right.
So yeah.
Okay, great. So, are there any plan? Are you going to take this band on tour at all, or to play the songs on the album, or do you play them when you go out with some of your other bands that we might be able to find you live?
Yeah, well, I've been incorporating these originals into shows I've been doing, with Shred is Dead. I just played this weekend in San Diego at Winston's, and Costa Mesa at the Wayfarer, and also in Long Beach at Harvell's. So, I've been sneaking in my originals with certain shows, like doing the Grateful Dead cover shows and
hmm
stuff like that. And yes, the Gateway to the Galaxy band is going to be functioning on its own starting very soon. I'm working with a few booking people now, and I have great publicists who's helping me, and the team is definitely building out. And of course, I have only the best musicians that I can get with me at all times, and I strive to always put on shows that are not only visually pleasing, of course, but sonically the most pleasing, with having really great musicians who are unique and also add a lot to the sound. They don't just play my songs; they add a flavor as well. So it's pretty cool, and there will be shows with Joel and Chris and Arthur and Bill, I'm sure at some point soon.
Okay.
But I do have other guys kind of rotating in and out with me, and it's sounding really good. I gotta say, it was a kind of a very inspiring moment to play these songs live finally in front of people and see them actually get responded to in a positive way. So
Okay.
um,
Well,
yeah,
we'll keep our eyes and ears open for some dates, and I'm sure we'll try. All my listeners will be eagerly awaiting.
awesome.
So why don't we do if you have some time still? That's all I had about the album, but I wanted to do a couple of kind of fun questions.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, great. So this one's an interesting one. Music obviously has changed drastically over the past century and even decade, even the last year. you know, what trends kind of have you noticed in your career as a musician, whether good or bad, and where do you think that we're headed in the years to come as far as music goes?
Well, I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening right now. Fusions of styles, of course, is really what's happening, and you're seeing that across a lot of platforms with jazz and funk and rock and electronic music. And there's a lot of good bands still playing live instruments and creating new sounds and doing groundbreaking things. I kind of more referring to more progressive bands in the jam world or the underground scenes more so. I'm not really blown away by a lot of the pop acts right now, to be honest. There are some really good ones, but it's sort of feeling a little watered down to me compared to other generations of popular music that we've had. But I do have to say, I'm all for boundaries being broken and being pushed, and kind of seeing that happen. Just the younger crowd, like the college crowd, is majority into electronic music as I see it, and that's cool. But I think it's also important to know about live instruments and people who play guitar, play bass, play drums, play keyboards, saxophones.
Certainly.
And I also think people should know what it's like to produce music and be in the studio creating these crazy, unique, original sounds and make electronic music too. So I don't know. I think that where I fit in and where I see things and I'd like to see things go is more of a combination of live instruments with electronic music, because neither is going to go away ever, or I hope neither will fully surpass the other. So I'd like to see them kind of work together and create more shows and more albums and things like that. But I'll probably, who knows what I think every artist needs to reinvent themselves, and I may be making electronic music soon,
Okay.
with guitar primarily in it. I might, do a more pop-oriented record where it's more singer-songwritery stuff, Americana rock. I like everything, and as you said, it's evident on this record. And I've always been like that, kind of like a chameleon of music, So, yeah, I guess that's kind of an answer.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. It's in the nature of artists, and especially in this case, musicians, to push boundaries. So, as long as technology keeps evolving, the musicians will figure out ways to push those boundaries with it. And, I don't see technology stopping anytime soon. So, all right. Well, that's all I got then for you, man. And I'm a big fan of the album. I listen to it a lot of times. My review is up on my website, and I even sent it over to my dad, who was kind of the reason, for my taste in music, and he enjoyed it as well. So I'm sure that the masses will get their hands on it soon enough. Anything else you want to say about the album or to the fans?
I just want to say, genuinely thanks to everybody who's supporting the music and who's vibing out to the record all the time. And, I just want to keep making more music for you guys, and just really hope to see you guys at a show really soon. That's about it.
All right. Well, thanks, Marcus. Gateway to the Galaxy, available on all major platforms. It released November 2018, so it's everywhere now. Thanks, Marcus. I appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you out there.
Thank you so much. Great talking to you.
You too.